Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. Just want to give people a minute to join us if they're going to. The training lasts about an hour and a half. Basically depends on load times. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, you can come back and finish it later. It also allows you to share the link with other people who need to be system admins on your account. Feel free to make use of the chat feature within YouTube to ask questions about a feature as I go over them, and I'll try to adjust the questions as I see that or see them. Excuse me. You'll see some links in the show notes. Some of them are for specific features that have their own videos. Others are like to the support pages, so you can see the various documentation that we have already created. But let's go ahead and get started. So here on the page, you see our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username, and that should be your email address in all lowercase letters. Then we need your password, which is case sensitive. And then your account name, which is typically your organization name. It could be your own name. That is not case sensitive. Now, if some reason you can't get logged in, then down here, there's a forgot your info link just above the sign-in bar. You can click on that, it flips it over. We still need your email address, right, or the username. Then down here, you need one of these two pieces of information, not both, right? So we need either the account name, which is typically the easiest, or a phone number that's on the account, and that's a customer-facing phone number, right? So one of your public-facing phone numbers, not like a device phone number. And then you click on Reset Password button here. That's going to send you an email. In the body of the email, there'll be a link that basically temporarily logs you in to change your password, logs you back out. If you try to do anything else, it's going to log you out automatically. So once you get back here, type in that new password that you created. You have the option to click on Remember Me, and then click on the sign in bar. Now, I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis. So when I log in, I get taken to the dashboard page, right? Basically a quick screenshot of my account. If it's your first time logging in, it takes you to your user account page. You can always get to your user account page by clicking on your name. So if you look at the top of the screen, just to the right of center, you see my name there. I click on it, gives me a big pop-up, excuse me. And you can click here like on your password box here and change my password if I wanted to. I can change my time zone and language. I can also change my date and time display format. Now, as a system admin on the left-hand side, I have access to the account level settings. So I could change who the technical contact is, for example. I can also set up the date and time for the entire account. If you need to change the account name, you need to email our billing team, and that's billing@virtualpbx.com, just because there's other things they need to sync up on their side to make sure everything works properly. Also on the left here, we have add-ons. Which takes a little bit to load, but here you'll see other things that you can add on or enable on your account. Basically expand the features that you have access to. Now, some of these add-ons will have an additional monthly fee. There'll be a pop-up box letting you know what that fee is. So and you have to confirm that to continue, right? If you don't, then that add-on is not enabled. Add-ons include virtual text forward, advanced reporting, and dynamic caller ID. I think there's a couple others. But anything that shows up on here is what you can add on to your account. Next up, we have the billing portal. And this link here takes you to the billing portal. It's going to ask you for your email address and then send you a PIN number. And that presumes that your email is the listed billing contact. But once you're in there, you can change your payment method. You can see previous invoices, etc. And then any system admin can cancel the account here. We would prefer that you don't. We obviously want you to stay with us. But there come situations where that's what you're going to make that decision, and that's fine. You would just click on this button here. There'll be a feedback form, basically letting it so you have an opportunity to let us know why you're leaving us. But once you complete that process, the cancellation happens by the end of the current billing cycle, right? So it basically finishes up the billing cycle, and then you're done. Go ahead and close this box here and take us back here to the dashboard. So up at the top of the page, got your name to get to your user account page. To the right of your name, most of us have this D&D toggle, right? D&D stands for Do Not Disturb. When I click on it, I'm activating it right now, so now it's white, so it's active, meaning I'm not taking calls. Now, if you don't have a D&D toggle next to your name, that means you're part of the call center, right, or the ACD Queues Pro. And those two features don't play well together, so once you're added to the queues, the D&D toggle is automatically removed. Next, we have the phone icon here. This opens up a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. This has a login page, which just uses your Dash login information. However, that will only work if you've added a web phone device to your user. The web phone device is a VoIP phone, right? Uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. And this allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make those calls. Next, we have the little chat bubble icon. This opens a new tab, takes you to virtualtext.app, it's a website, has its own login information, which would have been emailed to you. And this is one of the ways you access your texting feature if you have the virtual text feature enabled on your account and on your user. Next, we have a little question mark icon. This opens a chat window at the bottom right of your browser, and this allows you to chat with with one of our support team members, right? So they can help you with a particular feature that you're working with. You have the three horizontal line icon here. This is the menu icon, right? Gets you to other Dash areas. For the most part, the vast majority of our training will be here in the dashboard, like 95%. The little arrow to the right icon, that's the logout of your Dash account. We're going to skip down here to the center. I have total users. I have 4 people. Right? So these 4 people make and receive calls. Our plans are built on a per user basis, meaning the more users you have, the higher your bill. Next, I have total devices. I have 12 total devices, and then a breakdown here. First up is cell phones. So you can add a cell phone or landline phone number as a device on your account, meaning we can send calls to your cell phone number. Now, the main thing to keep in mind is once we send a call to your cell phone, that's it. You can't transfer that call to another Dash user. They'd either have to call back or you'd have to have the person they want to speak to call that customer back. Right. So basically, we're forwarding to a cell phone or landline number. Next up, we have a soft phone. This is a software application. Uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. This can be the VirtualPBX soft phone app, or it could be a third-party soft phone app, right, using someone else's application. There in here, we got the web phone. This is that Chrome or Firefox device. It's got a separate heading here. Even though it's technically a soft phone, it was developed and added later. And then here we have the SIP phone. This is a piece of hardware. Right? So it's a physical VoIP phone. Typically sits on someone's desk, has an Ethernet cable to get to your router, then out to the internet. But beyond that, you pick it up, dial the number, make a call out. There are other kind of VoIP phones on the market. So when you're shopping, you want to make sure you're looking for a SIP compliant or SIP compatible VoIP phone. I have an unregistered device here, and that means I have turned off one device on my dashboard here. Basically, it means I just temporarily decided I'm not using it for whatever reasons. Down here, I have total numbers 14. That means I have 14 phone numbers on the account. Generally speaking, for new accounts, you have one main number and then, depending on the plan, up to one local number per user. Right. So I'm definitely paying an overage, and that's on a per number month and per month basis. Right. So at most, I should have 5 numbers as part of my allotment. So I'm paying an extra for these 9 numbers every month. I have a breakdown here. First up is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned numbers are numbers in use, right? So someone can dial an assigned number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Right? Spare number counts towards my allotment of numbers, but I'm not currently using it. Whether that's because I just took a number out of service because, let's say in the US, a Memorial Day promotion just ended. So I'm like, okay, I don't need that in service any longer because that promotion's over. Or for instance, I'm about to expand to a new market, right? Different area code. So then I got the phone number ahead of time so I can start making my marketing materials ahead of time. Down here, I've got USDID and US toll free. US toll free is actually US Canada toll free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local number, right? So if you have a phone number in San Jose, California, USDID, just as if you had one in, say, Dallas, Texas. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested in doing so, you want to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They will let you know if that's possible because there's some places where we cannot get numbers, and if there's any additional documentation. That's typically, that documentation requirement comes from the country in question. All right, conference bridges, I have 2. That means I've enabled the conference feature on 2 of my users. Right? So 2 of my users host or moderate a conference, but anyone can join a conference. Now we're going to go over here to the top right to my main number block where I have 4 main numbers. Those 4 numbers act the same way. They're going to the same part of my system, and in this case, they're going to play the same main greeting. Below that, I have my conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're basically going to the same set of conference rooms. Once you go in, you'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. So this is number everyone dials, right? So your customers, your vendors, and your staff would all dial that number and then enter the appropriate PIN number. The fax box number, you can have one main fax box number, and this is your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the fax box as associated with this fax box number. That allows you for set up for outbound faxing, for instance. Then we have the company directory links. There's 2 of them. The first is CSV, right? You just download the file and open it with your favorite spreadsheet program. And it's going to show you a list of all your staff members, their names, their email addresses, their extension numbers, and their devices. The soft phone download link, that is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. So if you're using our app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file to that computer and then upload it to the VirtualPBX soft phone app. You'll then see all your staff members' names under your contact list, and you'll be able to tell if they're on a call using the VirtualPBX soft phone. Right? So if that's the only device your staff is using, you can tell who's on a call and who's not. Right? Green means they're not, red means they're on a call. Here we've got the VirtualPBX store. This will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.net, or sorry, .com. And you can order things like a VoIP phone here. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. It's used in a couple things. The first place it's used is one of the 3 pieces of information that you need to program or provision a third-party soft phone. Right, so you're using somebody else's soft phone app. The other thing it's used for is for sending an outbound fax, which I'll get to later when we get more into faxing. Let's go back up here to the top. So we have VPBX New Hire Sandbox. To the right here, I've got the caller ID button. That's clickable. And this pull down, this allows you select one of your main numbers. So one of my 4 main numbers, whichever one I select here becomes my default number. So this is what my VoIP phones use by default as their outbound caller ID. Right, so click the number from your pull down and then click on Save Changes. Next up, we have hold music. So you can upload your own media files to your dashboard. The system will play back .wav and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. You might want to record in mono instead of stereo, so that you can have a longer duration file play. And for that 1 megabyte, there's a pull down here, so any media files that are already on the account you can select as well. Otherwise, click on the browse button to find the .wav or mp3 file. Click the up arrow icon and then save changes. This hold music file becomes the default hold music for all your staff. Now, this is after a call has reached a user, right? So call comes in, rings to Bob's VoIP phone. He picks up, he answers the call, right? Speaks to the customer, then he presses hold on his VoIP phone. That's when this media file plays. Now, hours is part of main number. I don't typically like going right to hours because I like to have everything set up so I can set up the main numbers completely. So with that in mind, over here on the left, we're going to go down and click on the users tab, which is a little person with a desk icon. So here you see my users. The people with the blue suit icon, these are my system admins, right? So they can make all the changes we're talking about. The gray people icons, these are my standard users. They have very limited access. They can like check their voicemail. They can set up call forwarding for themselves, but they can't add additional devices or anything else we're talking about here today. Up at the top, you click on Add User, and you'll have a box pop up here. You need to fill out the form, right? First name, last name, pretty self-explanatory. The system wants some sort of text in the box. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user, right? So you cannot reuse email addresses. This is how the system communicates to your staff, right? So voicemail notifications get sent to this email. Total password resets, etc. Password box, right? Create a password for the user. Something they can change on their own later. Main extension number. The system starts you off with extension 1000. So it's obviously going to recommend that the next extension starts off with 100. You don't have to follow that, right? I can put in 5009. Like I started a new department for whatever reasons, and they're going to start with extension 5000s. All right, here, create a voicemail box for the user. This is by default checked, right? That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, right? So if I create a user and I add a VoIP phone, right? Say the VirtualPBX soft phone, the user can get logged into the soft phone app and they can dial *98 and then click send. That logs them into this voicemail box that you just created for them. When they first do that, the system will walk them through creating a PIN number for their voicemail box and then creating a voicemail box greeting. They can even go back into personal options and record their name, which is what the system uses for the dial by name directory or the user directory, right? But so they're basically all set up. Here is your option to include that person in that user directory. Just put a check mark to include them. This is something you can change later. Next up, we have send emails to an alternate address. So if you want like those voicemail notifications or what have you, get sent to a different address than the one that's used to log in with, you can do so. You just click on this box here and then enter that different email address in the box below. Again, this is something you can adjust later. And then lastly, send credentials to the user. I do recommend this. Uh, just put a check mark here. So once you click on create user, actually any of these buttons down here, create user or create user and add another, this person gets sent an email welcoming them to the Dash account, has their Dash login information. Right. Create user you use if you're only adding one person. Create user and add another is if you need to add multiple people. Right, basically refreshes the box. All right. Once a user is created, you can click on their name at any time. Right? If you need to, you can change their name. Here's your option to change their credentials. If you click on it, you can always change their email address or their password. You also have the option here to send them the password reset email. Right? This lets basically they can click, they have a link that they click on and they can change their password themselves. And here you can change the voicemail box PIN number. Right? Just enter 4 digits and save changes. Here's the option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Over here on the right, this first pull down with the little person icon, this lets you change a user into an admin or an admin down to a user. If you're the only person on your account, please do not change yourself to a user. Little clock icon here. This pull down allows you to change or select your time zone, right? So that way your voicemail timestamps are the correct time for you or for the user that you're adjusting. Little flag icon here. The pull down to the right allows you to change the display language of these web pages for that user. And you have English, French, German, or Russian. And then you have dialing timeout. The default dialing timeout is 20 seconds. That is plenty of time to send callers to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you're going to want to increase this to at least 30 seconds. You might need to go up to 45, but 30 is a good starting point. And essentially how telecom works, right? When a call goes to a landline, the landline telecom knows exactly where that phone is, so it just passes the call through. When a call goes to a cell phone, right, the cell phone telecom has to find that cell phone first, right? They're paying their cell phone towers. Then they send the call through. And it's that delay is why on a PBX system, you'd have to have more time for a call going to a cell phone. The extension number box, you can click here to add additional extension numbers to a particular user, right? So users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. You have a phone number box. You have your option here from add from spare or by new, right? Or by numbers. So adding from spare numbers is basically reusing a phone number, right? So I have multiple spare numbers and I can say, okay, I just want to add this 775 number here. I click add selected and then I can click on save changes. Now, if I want to add wholly new numbers to my account, then I would click on by numbers. I have the option for local and toll free. Toll free, choose the toll free prefix you want to work with, and then click on search. And then there'll be a list of numbers that will be available. You can scroll down and the list will progress. Just click add next to any number you like. You can add a multiple at once if you want to. Now, at this point, you haven't done anything, right? You haven't reserved the number or anything of that nature. But once you click by numbers, now you've actually added it to your account. Now, if you haven't gotten to your account threshold, right, buying a number is not going to immediately bill you. In the case of toll-free numbers, right, I think these are $4.99 a month, no matter what, even if you're under your allotment. So be aware of that. Local numbers, you need to know the area code you want to work with. Right? Just do a search. Any area code, you can get this error message. And this is just saying that there's no readily available phone numbers in that area code. If this comes up, use your favorite search engine and do a search, in this case, for area code 310 overlay. An overlay, right, is just multiple area codes that cover the same geographic area. Now, 310 is in Los Angeles or Los Angeles area. So there's also nearby area codes that may work. But when I do a search for 310 overlay, I'll be told that that overlay is 424. So I can do a search for that. And here I see many numbers. Again, I click add and then click buy to actually add it to my account. Now, once I click save changes, right, all these two new numbers are added to my user. These numbers are available 24/7. Right? They don't have hours of operations. They don't have holidays. So if this user has his personal cell phone as the device on his user, he can get calls at all times. So something to be aware of. Now, there's a little gear icon here to the far right for each number. First up is caller ID. So here in the box to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. Now, spaces count as part of the 15. But that, whatever you enter in this text here, we associate it with your number when you make an outbound call from a VoIP phone. Then down here, you can turn on the ability to accept that inbound caller ID name information, or CNAME is how it's referred to. All right, so it would show up on your staff members' phones. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, so if you do opt to make this outbound CNAME change, once you click Save Changes, that gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them up to 3 business days to update their servers. Right, so not on weekends, not on holidays. Sometimes it's faster, but typically 3 business days is what to expect. When you make an outbound call, right, we transmit this information. If your call happens to go through a carrier that doesn't support this feature, the name information doesn't reach your destination. The most important fact about all of this is that the receiving carrier has final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. And I bring that up because today, most people are calling cell phones. So that means the cell phone carriers have final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. The vast majority of them do not support CNAME unless their subscribers pay them an additional monthly fee. Right? So my cell phone carrier, last I checked, they wanted to charge me $10 a month to have CNAME show up on my phone. I wasn't willing to pay that because I don't care enough. Which is probably something you'll run into a lot. A lot of people don't want to pay their cell phone companies more than they need to. Next up is E911. Each phone number can have its own E911 address associated with it. This then allows you to assign that phone number to specific VoIP phones for the purposes of 911 only. i.e., you assign an address to Bob's VoIP phone because Bob works from home. Well, if Bob ever needs to call 911 from his VoIP phone, then Bob's address is what would get transmitted, not the corporate address, right? Because you want the right address sent to emergency services. And then prepend. This is a VoIP phone feature. You can have text that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID of the person who's calling in, right? So on a phone number that's on a user, right, I have the word direct here. So call comes in from this phone number, rings my VoIP phone. On my VoIP phone's display, I see the word direct and then the person's phone number, right? So I know, oh, they called me directly versus calling in from the main number or something else. All right, next up we have the device box. Right, you can add from spare, which is where you would reuse devices, or click on new to add a new device. And the first option is a SIP phone. Right? That's that piece of hardware. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models to choose from. Some have like a dozen. Right? So find the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Give it a name, right? Bob's phone, right? Or warehouse phone at the location. Then down here, the MAC address. This is unique to each device. Typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in under its basic or status settings, it would show up there as well. And then you would click on Create Device. And then you would click on Save Changes. Right. Now, if we go back here, and then you click on the device name again. Right, so this is the basic setup, right? The name and the MAC address. If I go to the advanced options and select miscellaneous, down here, where it says allow reprovision, click on unlock. You should get a green and white message saying, hey, it's been unlocked. Click on save changes, and then save changes again. So now you've told your dashboard system here that, hey, I'm going to provision this phone, i.e., I want to get it ready to work. In our dashboard, you're done. However, you need to log into that phone's web user interface. At this point, you want to look in the show notes and you want to look at the auto provisioning phones document. That's going to show you the screenshots of these various manufacturers and the proper syntax of a URL that you would enter into that phone's web user interface. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go to this URL to grab your config file. When it does so, the phone's going to reboot a couple times, and then it would show up as a green device, like this one up here on the aerial, showing it's registered and ready to use. All right, next up, cell phone. This would also apply to landlines. So you give it a name, right? Bob's cell phone. Then you put the number, right? +1 area code and number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. All right, so we look at here. Again, here's the name. Here's the +1 area code and number. We go to the advanced options. Oops. So these bottom two are typically checked. So let me click on Save Changes real quick there. All right, so this is the default setup for a cell phone or landline. So call comes into the system, right? Rings my user, reaches out to my user on my cell phone. My cell phone rings. When I pick up, the first thing I hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When I press 1, I'm telling the system, yes, I'm here, and yes, I want to take this call. Right? It then connects me. I speak to the person. Again, I can't transfer that person to another staff member. Now, that pressing 1 and that message about this is a forward call, that works great if I'm sending a call to a person. Right? But what we've encountered is some of our customers also make use of automated answering services, right? Typically for their after-hours calls. And in that scenario, what happens is that automated answering service gives you a phone number. Say, hey, just send your calls to this phone number. Well, on our system, you would add that phone number as a cell phone or a landline on your account and or on a user potentially. But what you want to do is come here under the advanced options. And where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you want to put a check mark here. So when I do that, now there's no message about this is a forwarded call and no need to press 1. Instead, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? So then in the scenario, the automated answering service can then handle the call, right? Because before then, right, without this checked, we still send that message about this is a forwarded call, and we still need to hear that one tone. The automated answering service can't do that. It's a computer typically. So it's not ready to press 1. The other thing that can come up is this one here, hide, keep original caller ID. Right, customer Mary calls into the system, right, reaches my cell phone. On my cell phone, I see customer Mary's phone number, which I don't recognize. So I may not pick it up, right? Especially in the US for in election season, we're probably going to get more and more calls about, particular bills that people are trying to pass, as well as from candidates and whatnot. So you might want to uncheck this. When you do that, instead of seeing the person's phone number that's calling in, you see your main number. We go back to the dashboard. All right, this number you selected up here, that's the number that shows up on your cell phone when a person calls in that scenario. All right. Hold on just a minute. I have to mute myself. I'll be right back. Sorry about this. All right. So next up, we have soft phone, right? Software application that uses your internet connection. So when you select soft phone or a web phone, you're always going to get this warning message. It's about wireless VoIP technology. Please make sure you read it at least once. But basically saying, hey, wireless VoIP technology is a thing. Please don't call 911 when you're out on the road because the address that's associated with your VoIP phone is likely not where you actually are. But once you've read that, go ahead and click close. Excuse me. And you have this big box here. This is the third-party soft phone. Right? So, and that means you're using someone else's application, which is perfectly fine. You give it a name. Right? Then here, you would copy and paste the SIP username into your application that you're using. Then click on the SIP password box to reveal the SIP password, and then you'd copy and paste that into your application. Please don't change it. Please don't delete it. And then here is your account realm. Right? Those are the three pieces of information you would need to program or provision your third-party soft phone application. Then you would click on Create Device and save changes. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, you don't have to go through all this. Instead, down here, below where it says View Configuration Guide, you'll see there's a toggle. It says Use Third-Party Soft Phone. Or sorry, Use Third-Party Application. You can click on this. So now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. You still need to give it a name, right? But then you would click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, Dante here gets an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In the body of the email will be his username and password for use with the soft phone app, as well as download links so he can download the app to either his cell phone or his computer. Now, you can use the soft phone app on both a computer and your cell phone, but not at the same time. So for instance, I typically use the soft phone app on my computer, right? So I log into it on my computer. But if I need to use it on my cell phone, I have to make sure I log out of it on my computer first, then log into it on my cell phone. And then I can take calls on it there. Web phone, again, you still get that warning message. Just give it a name, click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. Right? Because a web phone uses your dash login information, it does need to be assigned to a user. That's why you need to add it here. All right, let's go to user features. First up is caller ID number. This is for users that have their own phone number and where you want their outbound call ID to match the phone number on the user itself instead of defaulting to the main number. So up here, you would click to enable, right? Select the phone number that's on the user, and then click on Save Changes. So now, whenever I make an outbound call from my VoIP phone, All right, this 408 number is the phone number that is showing up on the outbound caller ID side. Voicemail box. Since I created the voicemail box with the user, this is the default setup. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. There are a few ways to listen to voicemail messages, but only 2 ways to really manage them. The first way to listen to a message is because of this feature here, the attached messages to email. So when a voicemail is left, right, the user gets an email. In the body of the email, there's the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the voicemail box number, and then there'll be an MP3 attachment. All right, so they can just click on that MP3 and listen to the voicemail and address the issue. Now that obviously is not managing the voicemail box. To actually manage messages, you'd either need to call in to your voicemail box. So from a VoIP phone, do that *98, enter your PIN number. You can listen to them over the phone that way, and then you have the option to delete. From a cell phone or landline, you can call into your main any number that goes to the virtual receptionist or an auto attendant, right? When the main greeting plays, hit *97, and then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number and then the PIN number, and then you can listen to it that way. And then the other way, oops, did not mean to do that, is under the menu icon, under the user portal. It defaults you to your voicemail box. All right, you can play it here, right? Download it here. But on the far left, there's a little box. I can put a check mark here, and I can change its status. All right, every user has access to their own user portal. All right, follow me is for users with multiple devices. Now, if you look at this user's device box, assuming it will, there we go. Yeah, I have 3 devices here, right? So by default, when calls come into this user, all 3 devices ring at the same time, right? If I don't want that to happen, or the user complains to me as a system admin, going, hey, can we change that? The answer is yes. I would click on the follow me feature, and I would click to enable. Now here, the system is saying, hey, what do you want to do? Right? Everything starts off as do not ring. So you have to tell the system what devices you want to make use of. You want to check the ones you want to use. Right? And then there's sliders here. You can click and drag to the right to give it a ring time. Right? You can go all the way across. You can go halfway. If you notice up top here, all right, these are timestamps. It defaults to 120 seconds. I can change that down to 90, for instance. I can also click distribute. And so now it equalizes out between these 2 devices every time, right? So it always offers it to my soft phone and then my web phone. I can click and drag. It's still offering it to my soft phone first, but if I click distribute again, now the web phone's first. Right? And then I would click on save changes, and then that's how calls would be offered to me. Now, if I'm a member of a group, calls coming from a group that are offered to this user do not follow these rules that you just set up, right? Calls from a group to a user ring all of their devices. Calls for follow me calling, right? This would only go for calls that are being offered to the user's extension directly, either because someone dialed their phone number, or say a call was, reached Dante and Dante transferred the call, right? Then they would follow these settings. Fax box. You can choose to have users have their own fax box. You would just click enable. And then here you have the option to use a spare number, buy a new number, or assign a new extension. I typically recommend making use of a phone number. That gives that user the maximum versatility. However, that can incur cost, which is why some people don't do it, which I understand. So when you assign a new extension, it's just that. It's a second extension number for this user, specifically for faxes. However, this user will never be able to send a fax out because the system will use their extension number as the outbound caller ID, which fails because it's not a phone number. Additionally, it's possible you're limiting who can send this person a fax, right? Like electronic fax services, at least the ones I've looked at, don't have a provision to add an extension number. They just say, hey, enter a phone number and click send. And even for an analog fax machine, right, someone who's using the old school style, they have to know how to add that extension number, right? Or they're sitting there listening in, like, oh, I hear the greeting, and then enter this extension number and then send fax. Whereas if you just have a phone number, they just type it in like they always do and send fax. Same with the electronic fax services. Conference bridge. This is how you enable conferencing for a user, right? So you click to enable. You need to create a PIN number for that user. They can adjust this under their user portal. The enable video conferencing, that's for in-house use, right? Anyone who's calling from a cell phone number or who's not a Dash user on the account would not be able to make use of video conferencing. Call forwarding. You have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. They can either do it directly on their VoIP phone using feature codes. They can also do it using the user portal. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for them as a system admin. And this presumes they don't have a cell phone on their user already. All right, so if you only have VoIP phones on a user, go in here, click failover mode, enter in a phone number, right? +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Click on save changes. So that means when their VoIP phone goes offline, right? So let's say their soft phone just stopped working, right? They lost internet connection or what have you. Call comes in the user at that time, it will automatically forward to the phone number you designated. Now, if the user already has a cell phone on their user as part of their normal device mix, you don't need to do this at all, right? Because they already forwarded. Customize call recording. You can record calls on your account if you want to. Up here, you would just click on enable, and then you have to decide what calls you want to record. You have these 4 options here. Inbound internal, right? Coworker Dante called me. Do I want to record that or do I not want to? Right? Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Probably want to record that. Right? Outbound external, I called coworker Dante. And then outbound external, I called customer Mary. So we often see this, right? The external ones or all 4. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. I believe it's listed on the pricing page, but if not, you can always reach out to our account services team, accountservices@virtualpbx.com, to verify how much data you have and what the storage overage is. If you have heavy call volume and you're recording every call, or also we recommend this for people in insurance, just because I believe there's a mandate to keep your call recordings for 10 years, we recommend making use of AWS storage. Now, what that entails is that you have to have an AWS account of your own, and then you have to have a feature on your account enabled called AWS integration. Right? That allows you to link your Dash account to your AWS account, which might require a plan upgrade depending on the plan that you signed up with. So you would have to talk to account services for that. Oh, it may be an upgrade or an add-on, excuse me. So if you go back to that, click on your name to click on the user account page. If you see AWS integration under the add-ons, you can just click on that and then you can go through it. And there's documentation for how to set up the AWS stuff under the support pages. All right, music on hold. You can choose to have users have their own hold music if you want them to. All right, you would just click up here to enable and then upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte in size. So you would do this, for instance, for your sales people. So they would have a hold music that talks about special promotions that are running versus, say, your support staff, who You might just want to have the default hold music that you set up under the dashboard page, or maybe they have their own about, hey, go to our website to see our FAQs, that sort of thing. Do not disturb, click to enable or click to disable. The main reason an admin would have to do this is if the staff member had to leave for a family emergency. Yeah, just we don't need their phone ringing right now. Calls can go to voicemail or what have you. And then hot desking. This is a VoIP phone feature. So you click up here to enable. This is designed for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling, right? Where people don't have a set desk that they come into every day, right? So they swap desks from a shift to shift nature. Enter a hot desk ID number. If you make use of 4-digit extension numbers, just make their hot desk ID their extension number. Is the easiest thing. It's optional if you want them to require a PIN. So what happens? Say I come into the office on Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. There's a VoIP phone there. I pick up the phone. I hit *11, right? That turns on hot desking on that phone. It will then prompt me to enter my hot desk ID number, which I enter. If I don't have to enter a PIN number, then it says calls will now be sent to this device. So the rest of my workday, I'm sitting there at desk number 2, working away. Any calls that come to my user ring at the phone I'm sitting at. End of my workday, I pick up the phone, I hit *12, and then hot desking is then disabled. Right. Next time I come to the office, let's say that's Friday, right? I sit down at desk number 5, but same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at desk number 5. All right. Next up on the left-hand side is groups. Multiple people icon. Groups are departments, right? Or ring groups or hunt groups, right? Basically, people answering calls of a similar nature. Up at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name, and then you need to give it an extension number. All right, click and drag your staff members that you want to be part of the group, and then click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right? You can always change the name. It's whatever you want to call it. You also have group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer an inbound call to the members of the group. Little arrows here to the far right, so you can increase or decrease it as necessary. You have the option here to delete a group if you no longer need it, and if you made any changes, click on Save Changes. Next up, we have the members box, right? This shows your staff members that you've assigned to the group and how you're offering calls to them. In this case, I have blast ringing or ring all set up, right? So whoever answers the call first gets it. Now, in an office environment, this works out pretty well because typically, like Dante and Jeanette can hear if David answered the call, and they're, oh, okay, that's why there's no one on the other end when I tried to pick up. Right? But in a remote working situation, you would need something like Slack or Teams or whatnot to make sure someone got the call, right? Otherwise, you have staff members going, hey, every time I pick up a call, I hear dead air. Well, maybe someone was a little bit faster than them, or the system determined that someone else is faster than them. Or you can go in the call logs and say, nope, no one got the call, and then you can search if there is a problem with that particular user. Now, up here at the top, you have timestamps, right? The default ring time for a group is 2 minutes. You can adjust it down here at the end to say like 90 seconds, for example. Right, I can also click distribute. So now every call that comes in first is offered to Dante, then to David, then to Jeanette. This happens every time. Even if Dante's already on a call, the call comes in the group, he is offered the call first for 30 seconds before it's offered to David. Right? Likewise, if both of them are on a call, that third caller has to wait on hold for a minute before it's offered to Jeanette. Now, these are sliders, so you can adjust that so those later callers don't have to wait as long. Now, for groups, right? Once a member is assigned to the group, they're in the group. They don't have any control about if they're logged into the group or if they're away or not. They're just in the group. If you don't think this will work for you, then you would want to look at the ACD Queues Pro demo in the show notes. Queues are an advanced version of groups, right? There's more routing options available, things like round robin or most idle, right, who's been waiting the longest. Also in queues, you can mark yourself away as an agent. You can sign in and out of the queues, right? So at the beginning or ending of your shift, whereas I would mark myself away for going to lunch or because I'm handling this training, I'd mark myself away now. Queues also allow managers to eavesdrop in on a call, so they can listen in, right? They can also whisper to their staff member or even barge in if things are getting out of control, things of that nature. Oh, you can always add more people down here at the bottom left, right? Assuming you don't have all your staff members already here, you would click on add and select the people, and we can remove people if they're no longer part of this department. Extension numbers, you can add multiple extension numbers to a group, right? This is typically either what your customers enter to get to the particular group or what your staff members enter to transfer a call. Groups can have their own phone numbers. Just like on users, this number does not have hours of operation or holidays, so it's available 24/7. But you can buy new or add from spare, and you do have the little gear icon here to update the E911 caller ID or prepend. Group features. First up, we have ringback. So call comes into the group, range your staff member's phone. That ringing sound is piped back to the inbound caller. That's the term ringback comes from. If you don't want that ringing sound though, click up here to enable the feature, and you can upload your own media file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte in size. This pull down allows you to select any media files that are already on the account. And then click on Save Changes. Next action, to me, this is the most important group feature. Up here is you click to enable, and this is if none of your staff members are able to answer the phone. Or answer the call, excuse me. What do you want the system to do with that inbound caller? And this pull down is for other things on your account, like voicemail boxes, or to a different group, to a specific user, or a specific device. Allow call forward. If you enable it, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Again, if they already have cell phones on their user, not strictly necessary. Caller ID prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. When you click enable, you can have either a text or additional numbers show up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID. I recommend making use of one or the other, not both. And I personally prefer text just because it's easier to read, and I know then when the customer's phone number shows up as part of the display, so I know the number to call back if I need to. All right, so we've got users with devices and we have groups. So now let's go to main number. Up here at the top, your main company numbers. You can unassign them if you no longer want to use them as main numbers. They then become spare numbers, so you can use them elsewhere. Down here, you can buy new numbers or assign assign a spare number, right? A number you're not currently using. You have the little gear icon here next to any number, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. Then we have the office hours strategy, 24-hour open office, right? You're open 24/7. Or you have custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours, for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then select your open hours in 24-hour or military time in these pull downs provided. Down here towards the bottom, which you may not see, is the option to say, hey, we're closed for lunch every day at the same time. You just put a check mark here and then enter your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. Then we have office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then on the right, click on Add Holiday. Oops. You have a pull down here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of those creates a new row. So single day, I have here for Christmas Day. Right, I gave it a name. I choose the month and the date, and then save changes. Date range for holiday, give it a name, a start date, and an end date. Save changes. And then advanced is right here for Memorial Day. Right, I gave it a name. I choose the month. This second pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then the day of the week. Right, and then save changes. If you want to remove a holiday, click on the little trash icon and then save changes. Then we've got incoming call handling. This is the big thing, right? So for my four main numbers, how am I handling calls during my open hours? We skip over here to the right. I have my after hours options and then my holidays. So I have three different things going on here. So first on my open hours, anyone who calls my four main numbers during my open hours, they come here and they're going into my virtual receptionist. This is a link here. Click on that, big box. So here on the left, main menu. This is what people press on their phones to navigate through my phone system. I click on add route to give myself more menu options. It always starts you off with the default route. Right? This pull down, you can select 0 through 9, the star key, or leave it on the default action. The second pull down is for things that are already on your system, right? Users, groups, devices, even media files, voicemail boxes. Now, over here on the right, the greetings. This is something you have to add, right? The system doesn't look at your main menu and create a greeting for you. It's something you have to create on your own. First up is text-to-speech. This box here is designed for you to type in what you want the system to say. It reads it back in a computerized robotic voice. In the box provided, you can enter up to 250 characters, not words, that the system will read back. Now, the system doesn't allow you to name the file. It names it for you. So in this case, it would be main open hours menu TTS, right? Because it's during my main open hours. It's for the menu, and it's text-to-speech. Text-to-speech is great to use if you're just starting out, whether with us or with PBX systems in general, or just a startup and you're not sure yet how calls are really going to go. If you make use of text-to-speech, after you click update and then save changes, there's a greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly. Find the main open hours menu TTS, click on the little wrench icon and change the name. Like main greeting 1 at the very least, just so you know what you started with in case you need to revert back to it. You can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. Right? Click on the choose file button, find the file on your device, click update, save, and save changes. Choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show the existing media files on your account, which is why you want to avoid the main app open hours menu TTS, because you could have 5 of them and not know which one is which. You can record it over the phone. Now, when it says pick up a phone, register to the account, it means pick up a VoIP phone. This is a security feature. The system knows when a VoIP phone is registered, so it knows it's part of the account, so it's safe to make a change. If you don't want to do that, or let's say you're waiting on VoIP phones to arrive, but okay, let me get the greeting in place ahead of time. That's fine. What you want to do is come under settings, and where it says allow outside recording, turn that on. Now you can call in with any cell phone or landline and record the greeting over the phone. I would recommend you turn it back off once you're done, so that way some random person doesn't figure out how to do it and change your greeting on you randomly. Next, this PIN number is specific to the time of day of the system, right? So this is my main open hours, so this PIN number only works during my open hours. So if I call in on a Saturday, which is when I'm typically closed, this PIN number doesn't work because I'm in my after hours, right? Whereas if I call in right now, it would work because I'm in my open hours. But once you do that, right, so you call in, right? You hear the current main greeting in place. You enter in the PIN number. The system recognizes it and then walks you through recording a new greeting over the phone. It's going to overwrite the existing main greeting that's in place with your voice and the greeting that you then just recorded. And I bring that up just because once holidays come up, like 4th of July is the next major holiday in the US, but especially during like Thanksgiving, Christmas time, right? People run out of time and then I just recorded it on the phone. And when they do that, they sometimes lose the main greeting they use for most of the year. But under the greetings tab, there's a way around that, at least if you're proactive. All right, next up, you can professional recording services. You click on order. This opens a new tab, takes you to a company called Snap Recordings, where you can order a professionally done recording. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly, and then they send you the file via email. So then you would just come back up here to upload your own file. All right, settings. Here, number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. All right. So in this case, they can make one mistake, which means they have 2 total attempts. Right? They call it in, they hear the main greeting, they press option 7, which is not an actual menu option right now, and it's not an extension number. The system would replay the greeting again. If they press 7 a second time, then that's it, right? The system would either say, we did not recognize your entry and goodbye, or because I have a default action right now, it would then say, we did not recognize your entry, and then says transferring your call. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, right? So that inbound caller, right, presses 7, then the system waits for 5 seconds saying, are you going to enter an additional digit? Oh, you didn't. No menu option 7, no extension 7. Play the greeting again. We already covered allow outside recording. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if someone enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. If you turn that off, that means the inbound caller can only press your menu options, right? They enter an extension number that counts as a misentry, or a retry option, basically. And then the last thing here, suppress the playing of invalid entry. So if you don't want that invalid entry message to play, you turn this on, so that way the message doesn't play. Typically, you would do this because you're transferring the call to something in your system, right? Like a user or what have you. All right. Any changes you made to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click Save down here at the bottom right. The box disappears. You're back on incoming call handling, and you want to click Save Changes here as well, right? You're clicking Save twice. All right. For my after hours, I'm using the second option, which we refer to as the live operator option. And so calls come in, and this first pull down, I can select something on my system, typically a user, a group, or a queue, or even a device. All right, basically, we offer the call to whatever you select. If they're not able to pick up for whatever reasons, then that caller goes to my virtual receptionist. Now, this is my after hours receptionist, so I have different menu options. I probably have a different greeting. Settings may be the same, maybe not. But if you make any changes again, save, and then save changes again. Now, during my holidays, I'm making use of this third option. This first pull down, you can select anything on your system, right? User, group, media file, device, what have you. If they don't answer, then it goes to the second pull down, which you can choose a specific voicemail box to leave a message. Now, on this system, I've chosen a special option, which is skip to voicemail. So the caller calls in, I'm not even offering the call to a user or a device or anything. I'm saying, nope, I'm sending them straight to a voicemail box. So the customer can leave a message during the holidays. Main conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. You can just add from spare or buy new. You also have a custom greeting, which is text-to-speech. Just click to enable and then type in your text-to-speech conference greeting. Even if you do not enable this feature, the conference room greeting, when you call your conference room number, the system says welcome to the conference and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. The main fax box number, you can only have one main fax box number. But once you do, you can now edit the fax box. First up, inbound notification. To the right is a box you can enter in an email address. Anytime an inbound fax comes through, this person gets sent an email saying, hey, you have a new fax. Here's the date, the time, phone numbers involved, the fax box, and a PDF attachment. This second field is for the email permissions. Generally speaking, designed to put your company's email domain here. You can also put a specific email address. And that's who can send out a fax. Now, to send out a fax is via email, right? So you create an email like you normally do. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number. Then you put the @ symbol. And in this case, but then you put your account realm, right? So you would get that from your dashboard or from here, from your Faxbox page. And then you attach a PDF or TIFF file to that email. The system looks at the to field, it looks at the from field, it looks at the attachment. It does not transmit anything you put in the subject line or anything you type in the body of that email. Only one attachment per email, only one email address or one phone number, I guess, per email. The largest fax I've successfully sent out was 7 megabytes, but that took over an hour. But again, has to be a PDF or TIFF. Anything else will fail. All right, auto attendance is an add-on feature or plan-specific feature. This allows you to create secondary attendance, typically used for submenuing, like 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, and then you would and so those options would be under your main number, right, under your virtual receptionist, and then you would create an English and Spanish attendant, or because you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, right? Those additional businesses have their own phone numbers and their own main greetings. So up here at the top, you click on Add Auto Attendant. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, then click on Create Attendant. When attendant is created, it defaults to be unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, typically because that means it's a separate business. Now, if you click on this toggle here, now it's available in main menu, right? So now it's a sub-menu option, right? So it can be a menu option under my virtual receptionist. It can be even a next action option under my groups. Right? Auto attendants can have their own phone number. Right? You can add from spare or buy new. You got the little, oops, get the little gear icon here. So you can update the E911, prepend, etc. Extension number box, you can add additional extension numbers to an auto attendant. Typically speaking, the only people who would typically know these extension numbers are your staff members, right? Because they may need to transfer. Your customers probably would never know them. You got the little wrench icon here under settings. You see here I have open hours, after hours, and holidays. This matches what we set up under the main number. Right? So if you have multiple businesses, but like one is 24/7 and the other is not, you want to talk to account services, it might make sense to have a custom build, or it might make more sense to have 2 separate accounts, depending on how much you're going to manipulate the various accounts. But beyond that, these are virtual receptionist options, right? So you've got your menu options, your greeting options, and the settings are the same as we saw under the virtual receptionist. And then you would just click on save and save changes. The device tab shows all your devices on the account. A green device means it's registered or that we can send calls to it. Red means it's currently unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. Black means we've turned it off, which if you look under here, under enable, the one that's black is the one that's currently off, right? Everything else is on. You can add devices here. The main thing I want to point out is if you try to add a soft phone, you still get the warning message, get the big box, but there's no toggle at the bottom, right? If you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, you have to add it directly to the user. You do have this little wrench icon here under Edit. So if we go to Advanced Audio, for physical devices, we'll recommend that you have G711A and G711U moved over to the right under Selected, right? It's a click and drag. And then Save Changes. The emergency caller ID, right? This is where you would choose a phone number. Oh, okay. Oh, looks like the caller ID or the E911 was removed on the phone numbers. But if any phone number that has E911, you can assign it to a specific device. So they can, if they dial 911, that right address is sent up. All right, the Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. All right, you've got the name source, right? TTS, text to speech, upload, you uploaded the file, recording was recorded over the phone. You have the play column here so you can play back and listen to the greeting directly in your browser. You have the download option. So for some reason it doesn't play back in your browser, you can download it and listen to your video player on your computer. The other reason I highlight this is for your typical main greeting that you use for most of the year. I recommend downloading a copy of it. So that way you have a copy on your drive, on your computer, wherever. So that way, if anything happens to it on your dashboard, you can always just re-upload it and you have a backup. Hey, in fact, you can even have 2 copies of it here, right? You can just upload it up here at the top by clicking add and just say, main greeting backup, right? So that way oh, I can just revert to it easily. You've got the little edit icon over here on the far right, little wrench. You can always change the name of a file, so it's something you can easily recognize, or if you know you don't need it anymore, you can click on delete. Next up is numbers. Starts off on numbers in use, basically just shows you where numbers are assigned. You can click on the wrench icon to update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using. If a number is spare, you can then remove it from your account. What you would want to do is click on the little box in front of the number, and now up here the option to delete shows up. So you would click on that, confirm the deletion, and now I have 2 less phone numbers on my account. The by numbers lets you just add new local toll-free numbers directly to your spare numbers. Port starts the port process, which is just moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So let's say, from AT&T to VirtualPBX. Give it a name, choose local or toll-free, click next. It then asks you to upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill, which should be dated in the last 30 days. There's a form to fill out, which asks, like the company name, the address, etc. That should match what your current carrier has on file for you. It asks for the BTN, which is a billing telephone number. If you're only porting one phone number, just use that number you're porting as the BTN. That's fine. If you're porting multiple, you probably have to contact your current carrier to find out what the BTN is. There's also an option to enter a PIN number. This typically comes up, especially with the mobile phone numbers, right? So if you're porting in a T-Mobile phone number, cell phone number to us, you're going to need a PIN number. Some VoIP providers also require a PIN number to port out. That's usually shows up under their invoices, but it may not. Then you'll be given the option, or you'll be given opportunity to download a blank LOA called a letter of agency that needs to be completed and signed. Right, a digital signature is fine, or you can print it out and sign it manually. Just typing in your name twice will not work, or printing your name twice will not work. It does need a signature of some sort. You click submit. You'll get an automated email once you've submitted the documents to us. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team. That lets you know that an actual person has looked at the documents. Um, Now, depending on typically that lets you know what to expect in the porting process, right? We submit the port. If everything is correct, toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days to complete. Local numbers can be anywhere from the next business day, but they typically average 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo on our side, or like in the case of an address mismatch, if you have a different billing address and service address, we try them both, right? Because like, oh, maybe something got crossed, so we try the second address. If we still get a rejection, then we let you know, and we let you know what the other carrier said, like address mismatch or authorized user or whatever, which means you're going to have to contact the current carrier to find out what the correct information is. Then let us know so we can update the report request, and then hopefully it goes through. Voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything that has an entry under the user, right, field is a voicemail box that was created with the user at the same time. But you can create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top of the page. This is what you'd probably do for your groups, call queues, or if you just want to like create another general voicemail box. Give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create Voicemail Box. We'll go down here to the support one. Right, so here you see I gave it a name. Here's the voicemail box number and the PIN number. Now, the voicemail box number is not an extension number, right? So if someone calls into my virtual receptionist and enters 3333, they are not getting transferred to this voicemail box. They'll get invalid entry. Unless, of course, I do have something like a group that has extension 3333. All right. Under advanced, we have greeting media. You can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3 at 20 megabyte, or you can choose from existing files that are on your account. You also have a temporary file, right? Temporary is for that out of office or vacation message. So if you have something selected under temporary and media, only the temporary file plays, right? The media file will not play again until you set temporary back to none. Recipients. Oops. Your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But any voicemail box, you can come to the recipients tab here, click on add recipient, and add additional email addresses, right? Keep clicking add until you're done, and then save changes. And these are the people who get an email every time the voicemail box gets a message. And then we have options. So once you have a media file in place and recipients, go ahead and click on already set up. That way people can't randomly change the voicemail box message. Now down here, you have the option to delete after notification. So this is my support voicemail box. I don't want this voicemail box to ever become full. So that's why I have it checked here, right? So that way after the system emails out saying, hey, you got a voicemail, here's the MP3 file attached, then it deletes the message from the voicemail box so it doesn't become full. Virtual text forward, this is an add-on feature. This allows you to have phone numbers accept inbound text messages, but it is not for two-way communication. It's only to accept inbound messages. So up here at the top, you would click on add number. You choose the phone number. The phone numbers that are available here are your spare numbers. So if you want a number to be able to have a text forward, it needs to be a spare number first, and then you assign it to where you want to use it. And then you enter either an email address or a webhook. A webhook would assume that you have the webhook features enabled on your account. that's linking your Dash account to other software. The most common use that we see is via an email. And then you click on Create Virtual Text Forward. And you see here, these phone numbers, if they get a text, it gets sent via email to these people. Right? In the body of the email is the message that was texted to you, right? So you can see and act upon it. Virtual extensions, this is a plan-specific feature. It's not an add-on, at least not that I've seen. This allows you to add additional extensions without adding users. Now, you would click up here to add extension. Right? You give it a name, you give it an extension number, you click on Create Extension. And we'll unassign that here. Now, virtual extensions can only have one device. Right? You have SIP phone, cell phone, probably the most common. The soft phone, right? You still get that warning message, but because there's no email address, you cannot associate VirtualPBX soft phone to it. So you can only use third party. Right? The same would apply why you don't see the web phone listed here, right? Because it's not associated with the user. Additionally, so virtual extensions, they'll be accessible from your virtual receptionist. They can even be a menu option from your virtual receptionist. However, they can't be a member of a group, right? Because they're not a user. They can't be a member of your call queues because, again, they're not a user. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You have today, this week, this month, right? You can also go custom, which you just choose, say, the date and month range you want to go with. It will default to 1 month at a time. These are all downloadable as CSV files. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll be able to get more out of it. The green arrow to the right is a call coming into the system. A yellow arrow is a call going out from the system, and you can see what device is being used. The little fire extinguisher icon, this will create an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. So it'll have the technical details of the call. You're going to want to write in the body of the email why you're sending it in, just because sometimes just from the technical details, we're not going to know exactly why you're sending it in. For instance, if you're having an audio quality issue, we're not going to know that from the technical details. From the custom field, you can go back up to 1 year. After that, you'd have to contact our support team. They'll have to escalate that up. The engineers can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is not available. So if you need something, your call logs for some sort of compliance reasons, you'll probably want to do that on a monthly basis. So that way you don't have to worry about it. Feature codes, I've talked about a couple of these. These are a way for your Dash users, or actually your VoIP phone users, excuse me, to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phones. Now, this is obviously a page here on your dashboard. Also, in the support pages, you can do a search for the feature codes or the phone commands cheat sheet. The cheat sheet is one page, and it has the context help there as well. So that's the dashboard. Next up, we have blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your staff members. So first, you click on Edit Blacklists over here on the top right. Click Add to create a new list. Otherwise, just click on an existing list. Right? Make sure it has a name, and then choose if you're blocking anonymous calls or not. Right? This just means if a call comes in and is not presenting caller ID. Right now, I'm letting those through, but if I click this on, now they're getting blocked. Right? That means they're getting busy tone. But beyond that, I come down here, I click on Add Number. I put +1 area code and number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. I keep clicking Add until I'm done. And then I would click Save. Right, click back to settings up the top right. make sure your lists are over here on the right, whether they're here or not, right? If you have to click and drag or they're already here, click update one more time. And now any number that's on these lists are getting blocked. Now, they're still reaching your system, right? The calls which should still will show up in your call log as rejected, right? But the inbound caller doesn't reach your staff members, so no staff member phones are being rung, and the inbound caller just hears busy tone. Call recording. This will take you to your call recording page. Now, this account has AWS linked up already. So let's go back here. Went back to January. So here I can see my inbound and outbound calls. I can play back. I can listen to it. If you're not using AWS, right, you just use the standard call recording, that call recording link instead opens up a new tab and takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It has a login page, which just uses your dash login information. And you can see your recordings there, right? You can download them, you can play them back, etc. Monitor, plan-specific feature. I believe it's also an add-on. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what device they're using. You can go by the name, the users, or by the devices in question. You can see everything, who's available or who's busy. Over here on the left, active inbound calls. Each active inbound call would have its own little blue box showing the phone number of the person who's calling in and who among your staff they're speaking to. Park calls, if your staff members made use of the parking features, it show up each person with their own caller ID would show up here, as well as a parking spot number. Reports, this opens up a new tab and takes you to our advanced reporting page. It has its own login, which you would have gotten via email. If you look in the show notes, there's the advanced reporting demo, which can tell you some more about how to make use of that. Basically, it's just creating your own reports. It's a more advanced version of the call logs. This is an add-on feature, so you don't necessarily have to change plans. There's something to be aware of. Voicemails, this takes you to your voicemail boxes on the account. You can get to any voicemail box as a system admin, right? So you can see the messages that a particular voicemail box has. You see that you can download it, play it back. As an admin, you can move it to a different voicemail box if necessary, or you can just change its status. Integration AWS. Right, this just is where you would configure your account to link with your AWS account. You need the access key, the secret access key, and the bucket from AWS. And then save changes, and then you're linking accounts that way. Call center, this opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, uses your dash login information to logged in. This is where you make use of the call queues. In the show notes, you're going to want to look at the ACD Queues Pro demo to see an example of what can be done there. As I mentioned under groups, right? These are just an advanced version of groups. So users can, log themselves in and out, mark themselves away. Managers can eavesdrop in on calls, etc. Dynamic caller ID. This is a add-on feature or plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. All right, you would click on Create Rule. I'm just going to click on an existing rule. So here, I gave it the name Vegas. I chose a 702 number on my account. And I just said, hey, whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected on the account. Right. The other option I have here is a feature code. So now, when my staff members dial *951, the system changes their outbound caller ID to be this 916 number that I selected. Obviously, it's a little bit easier for my staff members if I just choose the area code option versus the feature code option. Faxes is your fax manager. So you get to any fax box on the account. Here you can see your inbound faxes, the date, the time, phone numbers involved. You can download the file. Outbound faxes, select the fax box. So if you see a failure here, you can mouse over and you can see the reason that we got back from the other fax machine. When you see a failure on this page, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax machine. Right, there's some kind of problem with the number or got interrupted in some fashion. If we go to the email to fax, when you see an error here, that means the system had a problem processing the request. So we never actually reached out to that other phone number. So if you click on the little eyeball icon here to the far right, you can see no valid attachment. This could be the person forgot to include attachment, right? They just simply forgot to click on the little paperclip tab or icon. Or it could be they chose something that wasn't a PDF or a TIFF file. Number manager, this just takes you back to your spare number page. Going to skip down here to SMS registration. This is if you want to make use of texting, right? The virtual text feature. You want to read through this file. This is where you would start the registration process. And then this will tell you the status. You can also speak to our account services team. They can walk you through that and give you pointers, etc. Webhooks is plan specific. I don't believe it's an add-on. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. When you click on new webhooks, this is some level of programming. It's typically beyond what I've ever been able to do, but then I've never been much of a programmer. If you look in the show notes, you can look at the Introduction to Zapier webinar, which will talk about some of this. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we have done to link Dash other software, like we've linked it to Slack, for instance, among other things. You'd want to actually talk to our sales team about this if you want to add it to your account. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Oops. Helps if I click on the right thing. Right, so it starts off on your voicemail tab. So you can check your own personal voicemails and listen to it, download it, right, change its status. The call history tab, this lets you see your personal call history. All right, you can go back in time to different months. This is not as detailed as the call log, but you can at least see the calls that you made and whatnot. Faxes only works if you have your own fax box, but then you can see your fax history. Contact list is everything within your Dash account, right? So other users, the groups, the auto attendants, even the feature codes. Your staff members aren't able to add to this for themselves, right? They can change the order that things are sorted. That's about it. And that's only for them, right? It's not affecting everybody. The conference tab, this only works for users that you've enabled the conference feature on. Over here on the right is where they would update their moderator and participant PIN numbers. These two PIN numbers should be different. They can choose to have people join muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. When they're in a conference, they can come to the user portal here, plus icon, they can invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock a conference so other people cannot join, mute everybody, unmute everybody, or just end the conference call completely. Also, while in a conference, each user, right? So each participant, each moderator has their own little blue box. So moderators can then mute a specific person, for instance, or even kick out a specific person. And then lastly, we have the settings and devices. Right here is where your staff members can enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, and click save. Right, so now I'm call forwarding. If I uncheck this, You click save. Now I'm not call forwarding. And that is everything. I haven't seen any questions today, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.